Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Cathode Ray Podcast. My name is Louis Zezeran. We talk about TVs, we talk about old technology, we talk about retro tech, and I'm joined by my good friend Steve Nutter. How you doing, mate?
Hey, Louis. I'm doing great, man. It's good to see you. Yeah, we talk about all that stuff, and then our escapades growing up and how all this stuff relates back to us and how we connect with our nostalgia funny bone.
It is. So it's somewhat TV, somewhat old stuff, somewhat our old thoughts. So this week, first of all, this week, it's, we're almost Ukrainian colors. Not to get too, we got the orange and blue there.
I was laughing thinking we were more like, here you have like the Denver Broncos or something. Okay. But yeah, we're orange and blue right now. I didn't coordinate that. Actually, I used to have a really cool yellow hoodie that was my favorite from Game of Thrones. And I got it like the first season Game of Thrones. The show came out. One of my family members gave it for Christmas, and it was bright yellow, and it had a big stag or antler, deer on it, and and I just had that on it. And then all these, I mean, it was hilarious. I'd go places, and people were like, "Oh yeah, Game of Thrones!" They'd see you, and they'd start doing this. That was when it was really cool, like the first couple seasons. But I would work in it all the time. And I mean, if you go back to my earliest videos, I bet you'll see it because I used to wear it in videos. But it it was like it was holes all the way through here. It looked like I'd rolled around in mud, and it was like just covered in rosin splashes from soldering and stuff. I'd just always wear it. But yeah, if I had that, we'd have been right on the color scheme.
Right on. So for me this week, I've been doing a lot of podcasts. The main thing I just did is yesterday. So by the time you listen to this on Monday, a few days later in the week, I'm going to be dropping a second podcast. It's just me. And I was talking with Bob from RetroRGB, and I wanted to sit down and talk with Bob about, I wanted to get further into the middle of what does Bob do right now? Like what happens behind the scenes, behind the curtain? So we talk about what is a regular day, a regular week for Bob. What are the things that he's doing? We contrast that to what he was doing, say, 2 years ago or so, before the move, how things have grown, how he's expanded, how there's more people working on it, how that means his work has changed. And then in the third part, we get into what's the future? Where does it go? What is his vision? What vision is Bob taking RetroRGB towards? So maybe a little bit of State of the Union address or something like that, not to get too grandiose about it. And that one's coming out later in the week, and I think it's going to be very interesting for everyone to hear just Bob explain what goes on a little bit more. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. It's always great to get to hear you and Bob and not have to have me involved in it. That's fun. I get to listen to it as a spectator instead and enjoy it. But also, I think that it's also cool that you're going to get to go and be the one to kind of pick this information from Bob, as opposed to him always being the one, normally picking the information from everyone else. So now, you get to kind of turn the tables a little bit on him and get to see what's, like you said, going on behind the curtain and, within the community. And it's all really good stuff from what I can hear. So I'm excited to hear more.
So I'm happy with that. So that's sort of been my week, as well as just sort of random stuff that I'm doing here for the comedy production company behind the scenes. So not so much retro this week. I guess the only other thing before we get into your thing was that if you follow my Twitter, you see that I bought a junk Xbox 360 steering wheel from my local marketplace. $20 delivered. Actually, it's right here. Wait on.
Yeah, I saw this thing that you posted about it. Oh yeah, what is it, Ferrari?
Yeah, that's the Ferrari.
Oh yeah.
So, and the issue was that when they said they admitted they only plugged it into a computer, and when you went all the way to one side, then the controller disconnected. When I plugged it into a 360, you could see it said disconnect, and then I pressed the button and it would instantly reconnect. And especially, if you did something like this, it would fuck up and have that reconnection. And basically, all I needed to do was I dismantled it. I took this case off. Now I thought about it, I should have taken this off and I could show you, because it's very simplistic what happens on the inside. It's basically just one small circuit board, a couple of wires, the buttons, and I basically just had to dismantle half of it, I would say, and then put it back together again, and that fixed it. So I think it was just a pinch somewhere, or somehow the cable had got too tight when you went to the lock. It was maybe getting too tight or something.
What year was that made? Do you know? Does
Good
it have a date
question.
on it?
I'm not sure. It's
because I was extremely surprised, kind of when you opened it up and the like the design of it. I bet they paid kind of more. Don't you think that the most expensive thing on that steering wheel is probably licensing rights to Ferrari?
Definitely. It's cheap on the inside.
Yeah.
I was surprised how cheap it is here. Oh, God. This is not going to work, because I was going to self-dismantle it live on stream. But this steering, it's not force feedback, but this steering mechanism that brings it back to center is just a rubber strap. Like, it's nothing special. It's just like the tie-down strap you use on your trailer or something. It's just a version of that brings it back to center. And
man, I bet you get some of those are like really worn. They're like, they like never go back to center.
So it cleaned up real nice. It was just clearly a wire that was being pulled a bit too far. And also I can see, I mean, this has been opened multiple times before. You see the labeling's kind of all screwed up there. It's missing screws through there. I could see, and I remember I showed you a picture of some pretty dodgy soldering on the inside. Someone's had a go at soldering it. So I don't know if I was the magician who managed to magically fix this thing or what, but look, I can't say I did anything in particular. I loosened a whole bunch of wires and just sort of gently pulled at them to make sure they were loose and weren't taut and stuff like that. And it came back to life. So I'm very happy. For $20, I probably spent 6 hours on Sunday playing this thing. Super fun.
What did you play with it? Or what did you play it on?
Forza, Xbox 360. So I was playing Forza 4 and Forza Horizon 2. Really fun. Changes the game to play it with pedals, to play it with a decent wheel. Like, wow.
Yeah,
really
for $20, you can't beat that. I've always wanted to get something like that, and it's never... Usually, it's I found the closest thing I found would be like a portion, like it'd be like something that had 3 or 4 pieces, and it'd be like, oh, here's one piece, and you're like, that's like, no, thanks, but yeah, that's really a great find for $20, and to be able to take it apart and fix it. You know, it's funny. There's actually if people have problems with the Sony BVM, one of the first things I've learned and always tell people to do is to just pull out. You turn the monitor off. If it's acting funny, it won't turn on. First thing to do is turn the monitor off and pull out all the old cards and then put them right back in. And it's just like dust and debris gets in there and causes the connections at some point to not remain connected and have interference that prevents something from working, just like kind of like what you're doing. And half the time people will just go and be like, oh, that worked. It works perfectly now. And it's literally just reseating cards, like a Nintendo cartridge. You know?
Right, yeah, the equivalent of.
Yeah, so... that's a fun project.
Took a chance and just playing the long game and waiting for that. I wanted a wheel for so long, but I didn't want to pay the $200. Yeah,
that's still on my list. So you good score there.
Just keep on
I got
going.
Something.
Yeah, what have you been working on?
From? I actually did get some cool stuff from the. I've been thrifting a lot more, you know, and it's morphed into this different thing where, again, I'm not finding much on video games, but I am finding some other strange stuff that you wouldn't probably be looking for yet. But anyway, there was a ton of NEC LCD monitors turned in at one of the Goodwills, so I picked up a 19-inch, the nicest one I could find there.
That's a 4x3.
4x3, but it's on a generic stand. And so I bought it for double reasons. I was like, I can get the monitor, and if I want to, I can use the stand. It'll work on that old crappy Sony LCD BVM. So I could use it, and it was $4.99, $5 for it. So I bought it. Came with a power cable. Can't beat that. It's actually got a DVI input on it. It has VGA and DVI, and that's it. So I could probably get HDMI into it even easily. Either way there, but
that's not too bad. My LCD here only has DisplayPort and VGA. Worst comes to worst, you just use the HDMI to VGA adapter, send in the right resolution, and
and I thought, I'm just gearing up more stuff I've got my Time Sleuth in, but I haven't programmed it, so I'm getting all that stuff ready to have a cool.
Where did you get the
bunch of cool Time Sleuth stuff? Oh man, I got the very last one, I think, from Video Game Perfection in in Europe. I'm not sure what country, but they had like 2 left on their website, and I ordered it, and then I don't know if somebody ordered the next one right after me, but I got that, and I got the USB blaster in, and it's just sitting in my like, I have a barrel of, or a crate of mail that comes in that I just throw in there for a while for projects. Cool. But yeah, I've got that. So I've got a couple of, the Dell LCDs that I've gotten, and then I've got some stuff coming for that, and that's not even intending to get into that. But
actually, speaking of the Time Sleuth, real fast, Bob. I don't think I'm talking out at school here too far, but Bob mentioned to me that I won't give too much away, that he's working on a special project, and it involves a Time Sleuth that has a variable frame rate. So right now the Time Sleuth comes out at 60 frames a second, right? And that's cool. But what about, testing at 1080, 30? What about testing at 1080 to something else, right? So that there have been some, he's been working with the creators of the Time Sleuth to come up with some new versions of the firmware. So I know Bob's got some cool stuff cooking on that one, and I'm really looking forward, very interested in that data about how that affects things.
Oh, yeah. And I know that, like, I think that will be incredibly awesome. And that's what I really want to do, is do that. But not only that, I've bought 3, pretty recently, 3 LCD monitors that are nice monitors. There's no reason to just not, actually do these kind of tests with this hardware and publish that somewhere, just to have, in case somebody, wants to know what the actual, like, you could read the label and it can claim something on these, but it would be nice to take actual piece of hardware that, like the manufacturer is not expecting you to have that to be able to test their equipment, because they're just not looking at, they don't know about the Time Sleuth, I'm sure. So that's really, I think that's exciting. But yeah, those are coming. Impossible to get right now is a Time Sleuth.
You said you got the last one, right?
Well, yeah, last 1 or 2 was mine, and because other people reached out to me after that, because I had put, I looked all over America and everything's on back order, and the Video Game Perfection had 2 on there, and that was it. And so anyway, the LCD monitors, I got this really cool thing for $2 to go with all my cassette tapes. It's this.
Oh yeah, that's dope.
Old school. It's in really good condition too. General Electric. It's got the little handle on there, but it's got it does battery power, but it's also got a plethora of other power, just generic inputs and microphone and audio out. And I've talked to people who run like boutique stores, and they're telling me that this kind of stuff has become extremely difficult for them to find, as people want something to be able to play a tape in. And like with this, you can hook it up into, just like if you were hooking up an iPod, you just put it in the stereo jack of this, and it outputs to whatever you want in the tape. So that's what they told me. They're like, we're always looking for stuff like that to be able to. So, I grabbed that one at $2. No big deal.
That's great. That's a great deal. One of the observations I made on my trips to Japan is as much as everything's cheap, and in the junk bin you find this and you find that, tape players are what are expensive, and anything at all that resembles a boombox, maybe more than what I've seen here in Europe or even America, anything that resembles a portable player gets nothing going to the junk pile. It's being restored. Someone told me that because it was super hip in Tokyo to have one of these in your hip cafe, that you've got to have one on display, or people were having them just even for display purposes. So even for junk, they were still going for reasonably high prices. So I concur with what you've heard as well. So great pickup, man.
Yeah, those things, like you're saying, that was one thing I was hoping. See, when I came to my house here, I was hoping that, like, before somebody got in here and started throwing out the old electronics, my granddad would keep just random stuff. And that's what I was looking for with some radios. I was like, I know he has some of those junk radios, but they were all the ones that nobody really wants right now. Like, are all black, and they're not quite stylish. They don't have exactly everything you want, and they are later model. Definitely not the high end like boombox, but they're kind of like a box. It's like, so those I did get to, I was like, don't throw them out, but they still did when the cleaning crew came through. But yeah, I'm always looking for audio equipment and always looking at it. Now, a lot of times when you're looking at that stuff, it's in mud condition. Mud condition, somebody done blurbed mud all over it or something.
Have you tested that? So have you tested that unit that you've got?
No, that's one thing. I have not tested that one yet. That's like I just got that a couple days ago.
Have you ever replaced a belt on any sort of cassette player?
I have not done that yet, but that will, I'm sure, happen if it's and that's something I want to get. I need to study more on VCR repair. Sounds silly, but
sure. Because that's the number one thing that goes wrong with if you got a Walkman that is not working. That's the number one thing. It's just the rubber. It just degrades. And I've tried to do one, I think, and I must have just got a hard model. It's very tricky for me to do. I seem to be not good at this mechanical stuff because I also had the same issues. I've tried to now repair 2 Famicom disk systems. And you remember that's the big red disk drive that went on the Famicom. Right. And you can get them even in Japan quite cheap, not working. And 99% of the time, it's just the belt. But the belt, you not only have to redo the belt, but you need to then do an alignment on the read head. And it was just, I couldn't do it. I think a cassette player is just the belt and then you're good to go. So maybe there's a belt in your future, possibly.
Yeah, well, I've got a Sony like commercial VHS player that I used a lot. I had it in videos before. I even did a video about it. But anyway, it finally just stopped working, and it started like spitting the tape out. So there's something going on in there. I tried to open it up and I'd like do things like what you're talking about, mess with these adjustments, and I just kept making it worse and worse and worse and worse. And now it's like sitting in a pile of the parts stuff right now. So it definitely doesn't work. But yeah, maybe if I get the that would be the like high level thing to get fixed, because that one's worth like $700. That VHS player. It's commercial. It's crazy. One thing that I did try this week, and this is something that personally I've never done, and I'm excited to get into this thing. It's like I was posting on Twitter some pictures of like the most disgusting circuit board I pulled out of a BVM that was it had oozing fish oil from about 40 SMD caps on the actual circuit board. Now I've got the circuit board here, and I'll show you some more close-ups of it in a minute, because I have gone through and reworked a lot of it, and I'm in the process of repairing it. But this was absolutely shocking. So this BVM, it's a 1316. It's early 90s, and this one was from 1993. And I got it in my shop from a Patreon member, and it was the craziest thing because I got it. It had a couple issues. I was able to get it working again. It worked fine for hours for me, and the only thing I couldn't do is I couldn't get any other inputs to work on the monitor besides RGB. And so I'm looking at this monitor, and it's got this older card structure. So anybody, if you know about more modern Sony BVMs like the one you have, and you look in the back, you've got the cards that are external, and that you can actually easily pull, and you can easily read what's in there from the back. Well, before that format was put together, they used to have these internal, so you have to remove the shell, and then it would just have a stack of cards on the side. And this was one of the cards. It's the video card, and so you'd have a bunch of these cards. They'll have shielding on it normally, and so there's a lot of them in these normally. Like every process is in these, so there's I think like 10 cards in this one. And I'm reading this, like it's got like a map legend, you know, at the corner where it's like, this is what you need to do each input. And from what I can tell, the only card I have is to do like SDI and RGB. Okay. So I'm thinking, oh, I can't, the monitor can't do it because it doesn't have like the correct input card like you need to have support, even though it has inputs on the back for it. Like the built-in inputs, you don't have, it doesn't have the card for it. It had like set up for SDI card and RGB. So that's all I thought was wrong with it, is it's just like, oh, okay, you just can't, that's what I was telling the guy. I was like, you can only use it for RGB. Anyway, he's scheduled to pick it up. It went and sat in the garage for 2 or 3 weeks, just waiting for him to pick it up. And he got here, he drove down here from 3 hours away. And when he arrives, I'm turning it on and it's not working, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was working perfect. He's like, don't worry. And he's real cool. It's like, yeah, I know this happens. I mean, but literally, And I guess I should also mention this one was worked on before I got into it. So I thought like it had already had evidence that the power board deflection area was recapped prior, done professionally too, not by me or by the owner, like the prior owner, whoever the studio was had done it. So after all that inspecting, I didn't think about these individual cards as much. I thought everything was working. So anyway, I take the shell off. We let it run for a little while and heat up, and I start smelling the old familiar fishy smell. And I'm like, we've definitely got cap issues here, because it wasn't the monitor will still turn on, and it just would not sync. Like the sync line would never sync, no matter what I did, would not sync. And so I was like, look, just leave it with me. I'm sorry. And we'll have to work on it again. I mean, I don't want you to he's like, yeah. It's like, if you take it, there's really nothing else you can do with it. And he left it, and I finally started tracking down. I warmed the monitor back up, Lewis, in my shop, and the damn thing works perfect again, just like it did. Like, it starts showing sync, and I'm like, man, this thing...
But it still smells at this stage?
But that's what I did, so I let it go, and it starts smelling again. I have the shell off, and I'm really sitting there. I'm like, sniff it down the side like a bloodhound across the top of the BVM, and then I get to this card, and I'm like, oh, yeah. And then like I sniff next to it, to the next card, no. And I pulled that whole clunch. I turned it off, pulled this section of cards out, and I removed the shielding off this, and immediately it's just covered in the fried fish oil, and tons of it had been baked on here, and I couldn't believe it. But the way the card is structured, it sits in the top, and this is like red, blue, and green, or red, green, and blue. These are the inputs for it, and then down here is sync, and then down here is like composite video, and another video format that it does. So what had happened is like these had blown up, and then they'd blown up pretty much mostly from here down and destroyed this part of the card. So that's why none of the other inputs actually were working for like composite video. And then the sync line is the bottom one, and it was intermittently phasing in and out when it would heat up. And so it would still sync. And even though like all the caps were definitely bad up here at the RGB level, they were still working. Working. And so this had like blown up this ooze all over this board. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll get to see, I've already cleaned this, and I will have a lot of like videos, a couple series on them coming through, but you can tell where the solder mask has just been completely disintegrated.
I can see that already.
And even some of the spots have a black buildup that I wasn't able to scrub off. And so I'm going through, and I have, if you notice in the middle, there was a point like right in this area where the capacitors were not damaged. I've already replaced these. These are all new SMDs.
3 of them there, 4 of them there, yeah.
Yeah, and then so I've got about 35 more to replace, but before I put them in, I'm going to use a solder mask UV material and rebuild the layer on there, so it'll be like almost brand new. I went through and used my meter to make sure that like there were no spots that were missing continuity or anything. So the plan is, yeah, once these parts all come in, I still got to get the caps in the mail. Those were just the ones I happen to have in stock. And so yeah, I went through and I've again documented all this, but it was a process of first I got in there, and have you ever removed or like messed with SMD caps?
Not a lot, no. Maybe once or twice I've ripped one off, but no. That was honestly, that was my experience. I mean, I've probably done it 10 times, just a couple, like 1 or 2, and I've never done this level of that and that much like ooze and just mess that was on this board. And I had, I was like, there's not much risk of me damaging this further. I can either fix it if it's possible, or what's the worst thing that could happen? So I was like, I'm going to try this legendary method to remove these SMD caps that I had read about and seen other people do, but I was always too scared to do, right? Because like normally you don't just, so that here's the method. Tell me.
You take pliers and you just pinch the top, or you just pinch the capacitor, SMD cap, you pinch it with the pliers, and then you just start spinning your pliers as you pinch it, so your cap starts spinning, and it's just going to break the legs off the capacitor, between the capacitor and where it's soldered to the pad.
Sure.
And there's a plastic spacer in between the capacitor and the pad, so the leg just breaks right at that plastic level.
And it'll break the leg,
off.
not pull up the solder pad.
Yeah, and I did that with this was the first time I did it, and again I did it with over 40 capacitors, and not a single pad was damaged. But I tell you, man, it was disgusting because, like, you know, a lot of those caps that looked really bad had already dried out, but some of them, when I would remove them, it was just like this yellow, just like ooze, and it would get on my fingers, and I'm just like, oh, it's just, it was, you know, it then, like, the kid, and you never just, like, you get something like that in your hands, and the kid, and you was always like, don't smell them, and you're like, oh. So, yeah, I got those caps out, and like I said, I mean, every single one of them was bad. But I was real excited to try that method because now I'm more confident that I can do that in the future.
So now that when you kind of twist off the SMD, you're left with the two legs.
Yes,
and then
the
it's
legs.
Easy. Then it's easy.
The legs
just
are
to
still on the pad, and you can use solder wick then to clean the pad if you want. Now, what I normally do is I would just go through and I would apply a rosin-based flux, and it's a paste, and I just put it on each one of the legs that's left, and then I just take my iron and with fresh solder, like, heat up the spot and clean it right away, like make sure I can just push the leg that's left off and dispose of it, like in my iron cleaner. I get rid of the tip, and then I just go back and clean off the pad then after that with fresh solder. And then, you know, you could go take one step further and like desolder all the pads again and resolder them. But after, I mean, I've already cleaned it. I know this solder's good and fresh on the resolder, and that's what I wanted to try with those recapping a little bit, was how easy is it to just take that SMD cap, put some of that flux paste on each one of the legs, sit it on that pre-tinned solder that's good, and then just tap that with the iron, and it just literally fluxes and makes a beautiful joint, hits right in place, and it's minimal cleanup. Yeah. And it looks great. I mean, the rebuild's going to look awesome on this thing.
Looks great, hopefully, because you got 36 of them, you said. So hopefully,
yeah. No, I had. Yeah, I've replaced 4 so far, but the other it has 43 caps in it total. So yeah, it has a lot to go. But right now, I've got to wait for parts to show up from Mauser, and I need the I need the parts to show up, and then.
Is there any problem getting the availability of those parts?
Oh my gosh. I couldn't believe it. The caps, man, I thought they were coming back in stock, and then, yeah, it was a pain. There was... I looked up these SMD caps, and there was literally... you'd get a list of 5 caps available, and it would be in stock, and 4 out of the 5 had less than 50 in stock. 50. Like, and I need... 20 of one of them for this job, and I'm like, holy crap, there's only 50 left in stock. And then there will be one, like on this one, there was all that, and they did have one that had 4,000 in stock, but it's like triple the price, a little bit too big, and so they'll have, that seems the way it is. It's like you get some of these, they're just not there. If it's a common part, it's more easily to get, but some of the voltages and just like the size. See, this is an extremely low profile card, and it's got shielding on it. And these are the actual, see these little brass pins I've got my finger on. Yep. These are all test points. So there's a test pattern, or, you know, you can run a test and test this board with like an oscilloscope.
Oh, get the signal straight off the red, the green, the blue,
and then you can get like the red, blue right off the board. And but the interesting thing is the shielding goes to a point where it's literally just below that test point bolt. Okay. So it's very thin. So there's no way, like, you could really, it'd be very difficult to use not an SMD capacitor and replace it with something. There's not enough room for them to all fold over on top of each other. and it wouldn't look good.
I mean, it sounds like from what your description, when the shielding goes back on, the shielding is extremely close to those brass pins as the way it's going to sit. So,
no, see, there's actually cutouts.
Oh, okay. Right.
So the shielding has cutouts where it's got a cutout for the brass pin. And then if you notice, see, there's potentiometers here. So there's also a cutout at those potentiometers. And that's how you adjust your voltage when you're reading. So you would plug your oscilloscope into this card. And then you'd get your ripple. And then you have a tolerance on there. And you look in the manual and it says your ripple should look like this. Okay. And that way you could test, and then you could say, okay, there's either a problem with a component on there, or we just need to make an adjustment on this potentiometer and spin it so our ripple is in that wave pattern and wavelength. Okay. So that's, but that's, the shielding is like, you know how those shielders are where they have all that covered and then they'll leave that section cut out.
Sure.
So, because I was definitely looking at that first as opposed to ordering all the components. But I mean, it's I love an opportunity like this again to get new experience on something, because this is, you can't really, if you get this to work and look amazing, like I'm going to try my best with this solder mask to make it look like as good as I possibly can. And, it's just like one of those hills you get to climb. And if it works, you just like, yes, move on.
So you were able
CRT to level up.
You were able to get sufficient stock out of Mouser to complete this. You were able to do it.
Yes,
okay.
Because it was thankfully it was only 3 different capacitor values.
Oh, okay.
And so once I found stock, I was able to get. I mean, I basically ordered double kit because if I need it and I need a part like that, I don't want to be like, oh, I need to get one more or something. And so I did find it. Okay, but
good.
It's not.
How long does Mouser take to get it to you?
It was better when I was living in Tennessee, but most of the time, I bet it's today is when we're recording this is Thursday. If I'm really fortunate, it'll be here Monday.
Okay.
So
hey, I'm Mr. Euro, so I'm like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah,
wow,
that's just standard shipping. More likely, sometimes that can get delayed where it would take Thursday, another week. So that, and there's really nowhere else that I can order that stuff. Not many that I order that I trust.
Yeah. Okay.
But even, then you go into with Mouser, I tried to look for other things. Like they do sell stuff. They even sell DE10 nanos. Like you can even buy them straight from them. So you can go on there and just check if they have stock.
Do they have any? Because I think I bought my DE10 from DigiKey.
Yeah, DigiKey had a great price on it for a while.
Supplier out of Sweden, and I was able to get it. Oh, man. I think it was still free. I think for me, DigiKey is free shipping over 50 euros, which is good, but also like not so good if I just want some caps.
Right. See, I think it's the same thing probably with DigiKey or with Mouser, but like you say, you never really. Ordering. Actually, I don't think they do that because I usually order about $100 worth of parts each time. Just like you say, I want to make sure that I'm ordering because it's $8 shipping, and you don't want to just keep like, oh, I ordered this kit and then I need to order 3 more parts and have to pay more shipping than for the parts. But so I went on there. I looked for the solder mask, the materials to remake this green stuff, the solder mask on there right now, and Mouser was sold out of everything except the 55-gallon barrel of it. So it was like, we have one 55-gallon barrel for $4,000. And I'm like, I do not. Yeah. Oh my gosh! Like paint your house in solder mask.
Some guy will. Some guy will. It'll be a work of art.
Like,
so how'd you get it in the end?
I went to Amazon for that, and I was able to find a kit. So I found a good kit, and so like things like I always try to find solder. I can find that still better on Amazon. Even like really, I mean, high quality. I don't buy that. I've tried to buy junk solder before, like from off the shelf at a hardware store, and it was just it went straight to the trash. It was unusable.
Yeah, fair enough. That
but
makes
sense. That's this week's escapades. I probably I'm going to try to document as much as possible since I've got a full cap kit. built on here. I'll have a full
That's
cap
great.
kit
So
to
do
go
you
with
think,
the post.
so initially,
some...
if I understood, going back to your story of looking through the internal cards in this older BVM, the difficulty is that it's covered by shielding and you couldn't initially see. So you're going to have to, do you think, I mean, you don't know yet, but do you suspect that you're going to have to remove a couple of other cards and
that's what I was wondering, but like the functionality, it's strange because some of those other cards will have no caps in them, or they'll have different caps in them, or it could be something that's not even a function of the monitor you're using. For example, 3 of the cards have to do with SDI and like digital SDI or something like that. There's no need in rebuilding that. But that's another concern, and that's a major concern when you have a monitor like this with 6 or 7 of these in it, and every single one of them, could need rebuilding. And that's why some of these monitor restorations, that's where you're getting into ones that'll get up to like $1,000 if you wanted to or more, if you wanted to recap,
It's taking, that's a long time.
That's a lot of
40 SMDs.
Not just recapping it. It's also basically you're cleaning. I mean, the level of fish trash, that took an hour of just like alcohol baths and scrubbing with ESD brushes, and then using a fiberglass pen tip to like scratch it off. And even at that point, you don't want to damage other things. I'm just surprised that the board was this hardy and like high quality that it stayed together and it didn't disintegrate under all that stuff. And this goes back to when I believe hardware was like made to be durable, like high-end hardware back in like the early mid-90s.
I suspect also it's a little bit, you also know a little bit about what you're doing here and there.
Oh, yeah.
And, some experience of this, some not to just whack it in there. So no doubt some finesse from the user here, but certainly that hardware is more hardy from back in the day when you said those earlier BVMs or any of the pro Sony stuff. So I'm glad that one's working out, and I hope that all it takes is that one. Because is that one of those ones where the shielding is like soldered in to
no, thankfully, goodness,
okay.
No. That's the worst is when it's actually shielded. Or if you ever have to work on like an input board with all the inputs, they always have a shield on those, and they're soldered in. Those are the worst. Thankfully, it was just 4 screws, and it's double-sided shielding, so it was just pushed together like a sandwich with the circuit board in the middle.
Okay. Because that was reminding me, actually, I have a project sitting here that I've forgotten about, which is my Sony VCR. It's a 600 or a 700, one of the final ones. And it's got a problem with the power supply. And I think the problem has come about because it was plugged into the same power board that we had the fairy lights on. So it was being turned on and off every day at the power socket. And I think that the PSU was just on its edge, and it works sometimes, doesn't work other times. And I have managed, I'm 90% sure it's just the power supply. I think that's what it is. I did a visual inspection of the caps. They seemed okay, but okay, maybe I should replace them. And I've got to admit, I was going to open it up and maybe another one of our sessions talk to you about that. Because I do have another Sony VCR. It's from a similar generation, but different PSU, different connector. Because I thought, I'll just take the power supply out of one and the next one. And that wasn't going to work. So I like this VCR. I really would like to keep it. And I think there's probably another episode for you and I to go through this about what
I think that sounds like a good idea, because the good thing is, and this kind of goes with all these electronics from this era, a power problem is generally solvable because, and thankfully this is the case, there's generally less parts in the power area that can go bad. And a lot of times there's so much heat built up in that area too that it's kind of easy for you to understand how components could wear out quickly. And it's a good place to check. And generally speaking, there are every power supply, it's going to have the area where obviously your AC from the wall is coming in, and then the power supply is converting it to usable clean power at the other end. So generally speaking, you can isolate your power supply, power it, energize it, and then test your individual voltage lines And if you just want to repair a certain section, you can generally at that point find which one's bad, right? So this probably VCR only has like 5 or 12 volt DC that it's running off of internally, maybe, just from a guess.
I think so.
So it might have both, but you could probably look at it and find just from taking a multimeter and checking the voltages on the connection point and finding the exact problem. But even if it's something you really want, it's probably not, like you said, we were talking about ordering parts. It's going to be economically probably viable to just replace all the caps on it. And
I think so. I think that's it. That a power supply, someone at my level, you're more advanced than me, but it's something I can understand. I'm not sure I could pick through the electronics or the circuitry of what's happening inside of the VCR, unless it's a cap, unless it's something really obvious that you can see
VCRs
that's blown,
are a different beast,
or that component has, unless it's visually an issue. I'm not sure I could pick through the rest. But a power supply, as you say, there's power coming in, there's power going out. It says on the board, this line's 12, this is 5, da-da-da-da-da. So I'm confident as a somewhat, not almost beginner in this, that I'll be able to pick through. And I want to keep this VCR. It's great. It's a really nice one. It was the one that I was using day to day. So I currently I'm not even watching tapes on it. So, that's something for the future. I remember that we were talking about that, and then I went on holiday. So that's now back on my list.
Yeah, put that on there. And then, but let's shift gears now here, 40 minutes in. Let's start talking about some of these community, if that's all right, some community sites here. Let's start. We'll start over here with this one I mentioned in a video this week, and it's the new... or it's been out, I guess, probably public for a little bit, but I know they wanted me to kind of give it a plug, was the consolemods.org wiki page. And that is the front end page that has all kinds of information from consoles and retro systems. I mean, they go all the way up to almost like the last generation. I don't see anything, obviously, for current generation stuff listed on here.
You can see the kind of, I'm looking at the consolemods.org right now, and there's Xbox, and there's a few that grayed out, but you can see that they've laid the structure. And
that's right.
If nothing else, hats off for that with a wiki, because while everyone can go like, oh, wiki, and jump up and down and say that's tremendous, and I agree, the important part, I think, about growing a wiki is, one, having community members that are interested in, obviously, people who want to post, right? Like, yes, this is what wikis need. But what wikis also need is maintainers, people that structure that data, who say, you know what, that's great, we're going to put it here. And it's also called gardening in the wiki world, that they move it around so that you've got someone who's already interested in the structure is a very good thing. So it's looking nice so far.
I love the way you put that, because that's almost like instinctively the first term that would come to my head anyway, is like maintaining it through like a gardening perspective.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you go to this front end page, it does look sharp. I like that, the look of it. I like how, again, using the just real easy front end where you've got the picture of the console, and then you can get into there. And like Lewis said, a lot of this stuff, it's such a new structured setup that there's not actually information inside these yet, because like you say, the best at the beginning phase, like wikis will go through different phases. Right now, this is a phase where it needs more of the input, and then it'll get to the gardening phase. Like everybody's got to go in and plant the seeds right now, kind of.
Right, sure, yeah. And that might mean that at first it appears a little bit crazy, or you see some info that's not formatted correctly. That's sort of, as it'll mature, someone's going to go back through and fix that up.
So yeah, the front end here is console stuff, and right in the middle between Sega and Nintendo, which that's pretty cool to put it right in the middle there, and is the CRT Wiki, which I have a feeling that if people get really into this could become something that... I mean, the console stuff is great, and that's really cool, but this would be something specifically beneficial to us or anybody really interested in CRT stuff, hopefully down the road. And the idea here is just a simplistic approach of having as much information or whatever information on certain TVs, professional monitors, and VGA monitors set up in the same sort of structure as the consoles. And then there will be more stuff in here as it goes. If people document things, they have the good thing is you can go into this wiki, like you said. All you have to do for this is go create an account and log in, and then you can contribute right away by going in and adding things, and then relying on the people who are, like you said, behind the scenes working on structuring things. They'll go in and check that work and move it if they want to.
Right. I would say, like,
it keeps in the spot.
Do your best to put it how you think, like use your common sense. Okay, I'm looking at a page, I can see the structure they're going for. Do your best to do that, but also don't get too caught up that I've got to format it correctly and do that.
Oh, yeah.
Get the info in first.
I think that you can there's no reason you can't take your own creative approach on it, similarly to like what we do with our Cathode Ray blog and stuff. That's what I told Durf when he was asking about, we were talking about behind the scenes about the site. I said, I did the thing I was worried. I was like, don't go in and just link all my capacitor kits that I've like been working on, and I have linked in my Discord for like Patreon people, but I'm not like, right now, some of those cap kits, I call them the evolving like machine right now. They're not set in stone, a lot of them. A lot of them were designed 2 or 3 years ago by me, and I might take a different approach when I go walk to it now. So that's kind of like a lot of the ways I've been doing with some of these more modern restorations the last year, I'd say, is like my intent is to then go in and to deeper document them, like I did with the 1344Q on the blog site. And then in that format, I have like what I think for today is the best format for a cap kit listed there, and the best helpful way to order one and do this if you want to, or restore it if you want to. So I was like, please, if you want to use things like that and we can link that in there, I'm completely fine with that. But I don't want my like raw cap kit from something, again, I worked on 3 years ago that I did publish, so that if other people want to go in and say, hey, what caps did I need to do, then they're doing that. But they're also responsible adults who know at that point, some about electronics and working on these things.
I would think so. I would imagine that if you were doing a monitor repair, first of all, you've got enough balls to go and do that. But yeah, use the common sense, look at the cap kit that you've written, then look at what's on the board. Think to yourself, does this make sense? I wouldn't just order the caps straight up that are listed there. I would say you'd want to use that, double check, think about it to yourself, and then go ahead and make your best choice about what fits there.
Yeah, and so like you were saying, gardening. I'm gonna have to go back and garden my old stuff, so that, because I would love to have. You go in here and you have a question for somebody about a certain monitor, and they could go find an article that I did or that somebody else did, or anybody about that monitor, and some deep detailed repair or restoration on it, and then you have that linked right in there. That'd be great. But again, then I want to just make sure that anything that I put on that's out there has the right label on it, right? Because there's there's an experimental level on some stuff, and then there's hey, this is much more tested, proven, working situation repair kind of thing on a CRT.
I think this nicely also gets us into, I think it bears talking about for a while, because this wiki that's come out, it hasn't got a lot yet, but it's getting somewhere, but that it's not the only information source that's out there. And I think that if you have the right philosophy and the right mindset, that one place doesn't have to be the only repository. And now, I'm also not saying that all the info should be scattered around all the corners of the internet. But when I look at something like, for example, and I don't want to leave out here, the CRT or CRTdatabase.com, which is Andy King, I believe. Is that right? Andy King, very experienced CRT technician, great guy, a lot of great Twitter. He has a great Twitter account if you don't already follow him, Andy King. And he has his own wiki-style database that he's been maintaining for a number of years. And I also wouldn't want to take away from that either, because it's a tremendous resource. And I think it might be easy for people to say, like, well, but there's this one and there's that one, and how do I know what to do? I think it's... I I think people can maintain their own sources of information because it might suit them. Like you can see with Andy. Andy is not only making an amazing wiki for the public, but it's really his documentation of his work and his labor of love as well. And I don't think it would make sense for Andy to necessarily push all that into some other site. Just as for us, for example, we've made the Cathode Ray blog because we're just writing about our days, writing about our projects as they come and go, almost in a stream of conscious style. And I do see that means now we've just mentioned 3 different sources of information on the internet. I agree that does lead to a certain disjointness, but that is also natural. And I think that I don't know if I'm drawing too much of a wrong comparison here, but it's almost like the free market will decide what becomes the thing. Like some people can jump up and down and say, this is my one, and look over here and something like that. Each site can have its own purpose, its own place. There may be a bit of crossover. There may be stuff in different places. And, maybe over time, everyone decides, hey, this is the main place, but that doesn't mean something else can't exist. So I just wanted to sort of maintain that perspective before we jump up and down and say, like, this is the one place for all the info. But what's your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. So it's like... So that's a great point where you've got different people contributing in different ways, yet it's unique. For example, the stuff that I work on is different than the stuff that you work on. It's different than stuff that even Andy works on. Now, we're all kind of working on the same style of stuff, and so there is an overlap where we are covering the same genre, but there's also room there because... Again, I may never look at some of the CRTs in my lifetime. They may never come to my shop that Andy works on a lot and would know a lot about. And I do like the way that he has structured his site too, that you can go in there and find a brand, find a specifics on a BVM. So I think there's room for, in the wiki's standpoint, the wiki's trying to be a central place where you could go and find the information. So like if it's, if Andy wants to be part of that and then linked, again, it's just like linking his content on a certain BVM. That would be perfect for some of these things that he's published and established, and so that you go from here, that if you're like looking at it from this level, or if you again come across any other website and you like it also, there's no point that you can look at it, follow it. That's the cool thing again about the wiki is more of, I feel like, all informational, and then I feel like the other I know especially for us, it's an avenue for us to not only be informational but kind of express things
opinionated as well,
opinionated
opinions as well.
And so there needs to be a space, I feel like there needs to be a space for all this stuff on the internet, and people that are passionate about it are going to be the best ones doing it. And there's no that's not too much of like one genre. I mean, there's room enough. There's definitely enough room for people here to be this passionate about CRTs to have 3 different places. And I think the beauty of the wiki though is maybe that will be the most centralized place where instead of saying, hey, go scroll, our blog site, so yeah, scroll through our blog site and find this post from this date. Well, what if you could just go in here, click on the monitor, and then click on an article about the monitor, and that's the article, right? And it's still taking you to the same spot. Same thing with Andy's information, if he has that. Or if you want to then go in, you could definitely do this with Andy's site, go in there and get way deeper and go into look at specific monitors just based on the branding or his work on them too. So it's hard to put one exact thing on this, because the other problem is there's not a universal issue with CRT repair. They can all need something different. So it's no problem documenting more and more and more about them.
I guess it's only an issue if someone has information and then isn't sure where to place it.
Yeah.
If you're a person just consuming that information, you're looking up info, which I dare say is going to be the majority of people, then it's very normal. Just as any researcher has multiple sites of information where they're going to look something up. Because if anything, maybe the there being one Wikipedia has made maybe some mindset that says, well, there must be one wiki. That is the one source of the information. Doesn't have to be so much. Where people should add their information, I think you just have to look around at the resources that are available, the community that exists around that particular site, and just make your own judgment call. Do I want to put my effort into that particular site? Is it something that is going to be okay? Because at the end of the day, Andy's CRT database, I'll dare say, is going to be just fine, even if it was him adding, awesome. He's already got so much info there just from his own stuff. It's cool.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And it's just like, that's what I consider to our thing. So we have, two individual sites there, like the again, CRT database by Andy. He's contributing to that mostly, I'm sure. So I don't know that he lets other people contribute at all. I'm not sure. We need to ask him to come on here and talk to us about it.
Yeah, we need to talk to Andy. Andy, let's do it, mate.
Yeah, he's got his database, and then we've got our place. But I think that the wiki, is a good place for people. I think the big issue before was the fact that people had invested a lot trying to find these links and information, and they deposited it in a subreddit, and then the subreddit got cracked down on, or the links got lost or something. I don't know. But that didn't work, and that. I know that and other social media platforms are not a good, reliable place to store information that we will need to come back to at some point. None of them are good for that, right?
I agree.
Not
Absolutely.
A reliable place.
Sure.
I think that it's got to be some kind of website, and it's going to need to. So if you are used to going and just making social media posts about your repairs. The wiki is a place that you could go and contribute and have it be more long-term, permanent, especially right now when it's in an infancy and needs information, right? Later on, people may come in and, like you said, garden that information, and you might, click on a link and it might have 5 or 6 things in there,
sure,
or a certain monitor. So I think that, like you say, if you're sitting there and you're looking for a place to put this, that it will last, this is a good spot. Outside of relying on doing that or putting Facebook posts about repairs, I can never find anything on Facebook that I need. Never. It's impossible, it feels like.
I think that's the good point here, that, is there what's going on? Which wiki do I put it in? Which blog do I put in? You know what? As long as you put it in somewhere, anywhere that's not social media is a huge win for our community already. Discord, things get lost.
Exactly.
Random selection of Google Docs that are being linked. Google Docs are all there, but the problem is they don't get collated into one index or something like that. Don't put them, Facebook. Twitter is cool. I'm not bagging on someone who's making Twitter posts. That's also very cool and very informative. But that's also, then again, that gets you thinking about that differentiation you said between news and information source. Yeah, the wiki is an information source where the Twitter is news, entertainment, maybe an opinion or something like that. So I think don't get too caught up on where you put it. Just put it somewhere that looks reasonable for now that's not social media.
Yeah, and Twitter can be, any social media platform is a fragile place that immediately could, we're here working on YouTube, which thankfully feels like it's a more stable environment if you stick within, parameters of what we're doing. Of course, it's tech stuff. We're not controversial really. So it's
we're not getting canceled.
Outside of our stories of sticking bad videos in the woods and whatever, it's not. Yeah, we're in a place, but also the same thing. This is Bob speaking in my ear right now. It's don't get comfortable even in that. Be prepared that anything could happen, and you could lose this one single platform. And if that's the case, or even if something happens and certain posts just get deleted, lost, who knows what, the system scrubs them. It happens. And It's not good to be like, I posted that, so now I can go back in like 2 years when I need to work on this again and look at it, or I can share it. And like you say, posting is fine, but it's good to, it's much more, that's a personal experience thing, much better to have a centralized place to at least long-term have data.
To touch on what you said about YouTube, and that, YouTube seems reasonable, and okay, there's the risk of censorship and deplatforming and all that, but we're not probably too much of a risk of that. But nevertheless, that highlights that it's there. I would say something like YouTube, like what you also originally wanted for our Cathode Ray blog was, you make the YouTube video, but then you write the article as well about that video. And that is twofold. That not only gives you a place to write long form, because, okay, it's still a YouTube video in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, so you can write some more solid info there, but that means that becomes the index of that info, because one of the biggest issues with YouTube is finding it, the algorithm, how does it bubble up to the top? It's one thing to put it there, but how do people find this information in the great sea of the YouTube? Well, I don't want to go too much on a limb, but I would dare say that if there's a great video on repairing a BVM, something, whatever, maybe the wiki can link to that. Yeah. And so we're still coming in through the wiki, but then it shoves us off to this YouTube. Oh, great, as a resource, as any Wikipedia would do. So they can exist together, I think.
Absolutely. And I think that's what you're going to end up seeing on this wiki. I know it is for some of this stuff, because I mean, I've gone back and I've made videos like the best about what's so good about a Sony PVM 2030. And they're meant to be entry-level videos of like somebody who's just like sees a CRT and is thinking about this specific one. What do they need to know about it? And it's like 15-minute dive or deep dive, 20-minute deep dive into it. And I'm sure that those linked videos will end up being there. And the blog site, we're all trying to expand and creatively add more value. And some of it is self-serving too, because then we can come back to that data ourselves if we need it, or we can refer it out, like in this situation where somebody needs the information, and then it's easy a place to go find it, as opposed to like, having some like Rolodex of 400 YouTube videos going, yeah, it's in here somewhere. And even I'm like, I don't know where it is. Sometimes I'm like trying to find a link to a video that I want to refer to in a video that I'm making as a note. And I'm like, where is that video? I'm trying to like type in what I know the monitor's involved, and it's like, I can't find it anywhere. So it's not, the algorithm's just pushing something else. This is kind of like we're doing our own thing outside of whatever the algorithm is. This is not algorithm kind of related. We're trying to do our own thing, our own growth pattern. If the algorithm wants to come play with us, it's good. I think you do. Either you play the game of the algorithm and you're at its whim and you become the hotshot YouTuber and all of that, but you are its slave. You are the slave to the algorithm if you want to build that. If you're lucky enough that something just happens and it virally builds exactly how you want, that's great. I would dare say a lot of the time you end up as a slave to what the algorithm does, and people like yourself, people like Bob, people who are similarly minded community members, they're just trying to get good information out there, not to the schedule, not to the right video length. They just want to get it out. And yeah, you need to do whatever you can to not be at the mercy of the algorithm. No, I mean, and think about the roller coaster ride that is, where instead of I go back, I do look at the statistics of my channel, of course, and it's literally, as far as like subscriber growth, it is a literal triangle like this. And it's not like extreme growth, unless I get like a shout out from somebody I can see like one day where it'll go crazy. But most of the time it's consistent. And then like, so for like year 2 is like I get an average of like 300 subscribers a month. This year it's like, or year 3 that much. And then like year 4 this year, it's like I'm getting 400 a month, but it's not really big jumps or big swings. And at the same time, if you have these crazy viral videos that get you huge numbers, and then you're sitting there at this top point, well, it's pretty hard. And we all know this. It's pretty hard to go, well, how do I even maintain that? It's a step because usually it's going to go right back down, and then you're going to feel like really like low and depressed when you go from getting like 100 subscribers in a day because you had a viral video, and you think that's your path, and you didn't. You just had one video that hit the algorithm, okay, and then YouTube decides to change it and says, "Hey, look, man, that video was cool, but now it's age restricted or something." You know, you can't get you're at the mercy of whatever that's going to happen. And then
Bob and I touched on this in the episode that we talked about. At the end of the day, the way I see it, YouTube is show business. It's show business. It's entertainment industry, and if you've ever worked in the entertainment industry, it is a brutal, brutal industry. You can work hard, you can do all the correct things, you can how you want to do it. And if anything, like I think running a regular business is a little bit nicer. There's no guarantees in real business either, don't get me wrong. But at least if I got a regular business, I can sort of work things out and here's my product, I'm going to growth and a bit of marketing and all that. But show business is this special, special thing that you can work hard, you can have all the talent, and you can just miss the special sauce in the middle or the zang or the pizzazz that you just don't have, and maybe you don't know what that is, or maybe you know exactly what that is, but it just isn't you. And show business is this brutal, unforgiving field, and that's the kind of the difficulty that we've got, that the main thing that we want to do, which is put content out on YouTube because we like giving content, we like entertaining, sure, there's that too, yeah. But it's still a show business, which is also not fair. But we're also trying to deal with this information that is timeless and hopefully evergreen as well. So there's these weird balances that need to exist there.
Yeah, it's a difficult task, and it's like, but personally, I can tell the best YouTubers are the ones that just consistently come out and just work on self-improvement, work on taking care of what they can, and like you watch them over a long period of time and you understand why somebody who's been on this platform and gone through every up and down pretty much over a 10-year, 15-year period. Like a lot of times people will look at these upper echelon 300,000 plus subscriber channels, and the vast majority of them have been highly invested into. Sure. Like I'm talking, and they were taking risks when everybody thought they were extremely stupid for being on YouTube. Okay. And so they started and went through this a long time ago. And I just realized that if you had caught lightning in a bottle, are you sure you're ready? Are you sure you're ready to do that? What's your next step, even if that happens? Because I think that if you're not ready for that, then it just like you caught it, you'll lose it. And show business easily can be something, even like you said, you could be somebody who hits it right, gets all the success, and doesn't plan right from that point on, just living this high life, and all of a sudden it comes crashing down and you can never get back to where you were.
Sure. I mean, I don't want to take away from YouTubers. I don't want to take away from their effort. Like, it almost might sound like, well, those fucking guys, they're slaves to the algorithm.
No.
That'll come back and get me in the future, no doubt. It sounds like I'm a bit bitter. It's not that. It's more, the reason I point out that it's show business is that it is, the number of people that make it successful is so small compared to the number of people that actually try. And it was just that realism, I guess, that you're wading in the waters. It's because, again, if I'm running a business, I can almost, you might then say, well, the number of businesses that fail or don't fail is high as well. I just think it's even more in showbiz than that. And people need to set that expectation correctly about what you're getting in for, because I have nothing but respect for those YouTubers. They have grinded away. They have done it for years and worked so hard for that.
Market understanding, all this stuff is very important. And the people who've been able to pull this off long-term should be commended. And I also think, though, that like, there's in YouTube and show business, there are elements, and this has even become obvious in other more stable businesses, but there are elements out of your control that you may be the best thing on earth, right? And it's just like, it's just not your time yet, or it's something else is holding it back, and it has nothing to do with you. So that's a portion of this whole idea of even, are you still passionate about doing all this? If it still does there, you got to have the right roots grounded in this whole platform kind of idea if you want to be in it for the long term. And instead of just like we were talking about being worried about what the next big thing kind of is, it's a grind, but there's going to be lulls where you could be putting out your best content and not seeing like, you know, this growth rate that you're in your head hoping for. But at the same time, you come out some of your like lowest of lows and then do something that just goes off the radar you don't really expect. So yeah, I never like to put the cool thing about the best part about YouTube is it's open to just about anybody, and I don't think that it's not my right to tell anybody that they shouldn't, just like me, I would love them to have the opportunity to come on here, show whatever they've got, and if there's an audience out there for it, the audience will come to it. And the thing about YouTube is that's just what it takes. It's just like if you're going into a niche, keep grinding into that niche and find the people and try to grow in there and grow the community. And that's what we're really doing here.
Oh, I love it, Steve. Maybe we should, maybe it's a nice place to button it off for today.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's hour a good 10. One. We're an hour and 10 already.
It's good. Yeah.
So, all right. So what do we got? What do you got coming up for the next, till the next time we talk?
Let's see. We need to talk to, I got a couple people that I've been chatting with. We need to get them on the show. So hopefully we'll have a guest. I don't know if it'll be the next one, maybe the one after that. We'll see how our schedules all work out. So I'll be working on trying to book a couple of other business people that we've been talking about here. And
yeah, the booking is Steve, because more people know Steve, so I let Steve do that one. More people know who he is.
I'm like, people will ask me like, hey, how do I fix this CRT? And I'm like, okay, here's how you do it. And then they finally get it fixed and they're all happy. And I'm like, hey, by the way, why don't you just come on? Well, while you're happy and you're talking to me, I've got you here.
It's a salesman.
It's the salesman. Hard to say no right now, right?
That's the salesman in you. You know it. You got to ask them, do they want to make a sale? We talked about this last week.
So that's what I got to do now. I got to go back and follow up. So that's the next. Yeah, that's the follow up, baby. So. Nice. Yeah, I'll be doing some salesman stuff. I've got some people actually coming in to drop off some new monitors. I've got the Ikagimis here too. I posted on those on Twitter. I've got a HD Ikigami in the shop, which I haven't even tried out yet. But I did notice that somebody's already been inside it because it has a fan slot on the back. You know, like a open for a fan.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like which is normal, but there's a new Noctua fan in it. So I'm like, somebody's already gone in there and installed a Noctua fan. And so the guy is a repeat customer. I know he doesn't know anything about it. So it'll be interesting to open it up and see what someone else has already done in there.
Sounds like a good video coming up on that one. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'll finish up this BVM. We'll see next week. We'll see if it works. We'll talk about that.
All right. All good. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And next week.
Everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Oh, stop.